Hello and welcome to another What Sold on eBay video. I'm your host, Chris, the Thrift Shop Hustler. If you're new to the channel and you want to learn about different things to sell on eBay, definitely go down there and click the subscribe button and hit the like button right now if you like these kind of videos, and that definitely helps out the algorithm. So let's get right into it. For those that are new to the channel, what I do is I go over some of the items that sold on eBay over the previous weeks, and I talk a little bit about them and give a little bit of knowledge, and for definitely for something to go and look out there if you're going to be out there sourcing at all. I know right now there's not too much sourcing going on because a lot of the United States is stuck at home, but you can definitely use some online arbitrage or anything like that. So let's get into it. The first item today is this Hot Toys sealed masterpiece. This is from Rango. We talked about this before in the Instagram page, and this is actually a really crazy figure. I actually thought that this wasn't even going to be worth that much, but when I looked it up, there was prices all over the place for this. It's like long sold out. We talked about Hot Toys before in the past, and I think I have you can see the Hot Toys is a little flame logo down there. If you ever see anything that says Hot Toys on it, it's definitely worth looking up and picking up for sure. I don't think there's any Hot Toys that are actually really inexpensive. Everything usually goes for pretty good money, so it's definitely a Bolo brand. But anyways, this Rango figure, I've seen this thing go as high as $1,200 on Amazon. Now that's the offering price. Whether or not someone's going to pay that much on Amazon for it, that's a whole other ball game in itself. That thing could sit there for years and not even get sold. But anyways, we did take a best offer for $179 on this. We had this as high as, I think I had this as high as 500 at one point, because I did the high-low theory, which is basically list high, and then you can always bring the price down. As you can see here, we had I think we had a 40% off sale, and it sold for $179.99 plus shipping. And just if you ever ship these kind of things, just make sure you ship these properly, especially toys that are over $50. Usually collectors want them in pretty good condition, so you definitely want to take the extra step in making sure these are shipped properly. These boxes can easily be crushed and smashed, especially Funko Pops and things like that. You definitely want to ship very well. Next up, we have this 1964 through 1972 Hummel figure. Smart little sister. Wow, there we go. That's what I meant to say. Smart little sister, as you can see here, as it says that some of these, actually the older ones, have the little stickers on the side, and usually those stickers are like made out of this paper material, and those things usually wash off or come off because if someone cleans it or whatever, and over time some of those stickers will just come off. So it's very nice to see it. If you didn't know what it was, you can basically look up this number right here, this 346 number. And as you can see, even though this says stamp 1956, it's got kind of the newer Hummel logo. And if you want to learn a little bit more about Hummels, I have a video. I'm going to leave a link up above. Definitely, if you Hummels aren't, I'm going to say Hummels aren't as, they don't go for as much as they did like 20 years ago, which was the 80s. I think were like the highlight or the highest that Hummels were in demand. It's definitely a generational collectible. A lot of the collectors are becoming older and passing away, and it's just one of those generational collectibles that you should actually know about, because if you flip it under, you can see that there's different hallmarks, and you can tell by the years, because what they do is they produce the same figure over again. So they might have produced this like a dozen times throughout the years. And as you can see here, this one is from 1964 to 72. That's why there's that spread from 1964 to 1972. It's because of this particular hallmark. As you can see here, they call this the B within the V. And you can go to Google. I don't know how many. I want to say there's like between 8 and 12 different hallmarks throughout the years, and usually the ones that the very earliest Hummels are probably worth the most. And it's just something to get familiar with. Even though this says 1956 stamped under it, that might have been the original like kiln produced thing. But as we can see, this is from 1964 to 1972. For Hummels, another thing to look out for is just to make sure there's no broken pieces, there's any repair marks. This one actually is pretty solid. There's some very intricate ones that I would just not want to ship. And so just be very careful if you're ever shipping Hummels. I would not get into Hummels if I was to think like, oh, let me get into some I would not get into buying and selling Hummels, because they're the collectors are very picky. They're very finicky, and you have to know, like, if anything's broken or repaired. And sometimes the repairs are so good you can't even notice it. But as this is a pretty good one, and you can tell, like, throughout the years, the paint jobs also kind of show the different years and things like that. So just take the whole thing into perspective. Make sure there's no huge chips in the foot. As you can see here, this foot is pretty well done. The underneath here, there's a little crackling, but that's just because of the glazing effect, and that usually doesn't determine or deduce. God, I don't even know what I'm talking about. I can't even talk today. It won't make the price go down, so just make sure that you're definitely looking at different things. Next up, we have this 1940 silver seal hammered aluminum. I don't know what this is, like a turkey roaster. Where is? There we go. Silver seal. Definitely look out for this kind of hammered cookware. There's some of them that are actually worth a crazy amount of money, and I can't remember off the top of my head what the brand was, but it has this kind of same kind of look. It's not this particular silver steel brand, but it's another brand, and sometimes they have like, I wish I knew, because I just packed and shipped a huge collection of these things, and I forget what the brand name is, but there's another brand that goes for a pretty crazy amount of money for this kind of this aluminum cookware, and this was Metalcraft Corporation. And so definitely look out for these kind of things when you're out there. Usually you can tell by the marks underneath. You can really easily kind of look them up. As you can see, Century Silvercraft Corporation. And a lot of those are, unless they're like really old, like really, really old, sometimes they won't have any marks. And then you'll just have to go off of the styles, like the finial here, the handle on top, and the two little handles on the side. But there's a lot of great sales in cookware right now because everyone's home, everyone's cooking. So if you have some old cookware that has some value and you just want to get rid of it right now, is probably a good time to be listing cookware. Next up, we have this men's Wolverine 1,000 mile wingtips. These are black and brown. Ankle boots. This is size 8.5. Anything Wolverine brand is a really good bolo brand for shoes. Even in like kind of, as you can see, the condition wasn't super great on these, and these still sold for $50. Definitely look out for the new ones, and just look out for just any of these. Wolverine's like a really good brand, is a bolo brand for sure with shoes. Usually you can't go wrong, especially if the price is right, if you ever pick these up in basically any style. Now size is going to be another thing. There's some sizes that are more in demand than others, but for the most part, Wolverine brand shoes are definitely a bolo brand, especially if you can get into some of the vintage ones and things like that. So definitely keep an eye out. This sold for $50 plus $10 shipping. Next up is this Pac-Man board game from Milton Bradley. We took a best offer for $35 on this. This was from 1980. As you can see here, all the pieces were there. And that's kind of the thing that always kind of is a pain in the ass with board games, and why I don't really get too far into board games. Unless they're like super desirable, then I might take a look at them, because some of these games, they don't really go for much, maybe $10, $12. But then you got to take the time to kind of count all the pieces, and if there's no instructions, you don't know what, if you got, like, imagine like having to count all these marbles and then figuring out like, there's one missing, or like you counted it wrong, or you know what I mean? Like there's just so much to do when it comes to board games. One thing I will say is, if you did buy this at a garage sale and you didn't feel like dealing with all that, and you didn't sell it like this, you could part these pieces out. I'm pretty sure someone would purchase like these ghosts individually. Those little Pac-Man marble things individually, those little cup holders. That's another great thing too about board games, is sometimes you can just part them out. I've done that many, 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 many times in the past. As a matter of fact, if I find usually Monopoly games at any garage sale and they're cheap enough, like $5, $3, $4, I'll buy them, and I'll just and I'll just take the pieces out, like the little metal pieces and just the different things. Because there's some Monopoly pieces that are very exclusive to specific Monopoly, like Monopoly Star Wars is a good example. There's individual token pieces that you could sell individually, and so that's just another kind of way to kind of make money on board games. To me, I'm not a fan of board games as far as reselling them, because not only are they a pain in the ass to try to figure out if you have all the pieces, they're also a pain in the ass to ship. I know like UPS or USPS makes a flat rate board game box, but sometimes that doesn't even fit right. And just you have to have the right box for this. And that's another thing too, is like I've shipped so many things over the years, and it's always like the board games that are always have the hardest time finding a box for. I should probably look into just buying like getting a very specific size box and just buy like 100 of them just so I have them on hand. Usually, you want to go bigger, because usually, you want to make sure that you buy those boxes, and then sometimes some things don't fit. You usually try to get the biggest one possible that's small enough that'll fit a variety of size of board games. So, if I have a whole collection of board games, I might do some measurements and then figure out, what is the average size, and then go a little bit bigger than that so that you can always use those boxes for this kind of shipping. But yeah, like I said, I like board games. I just don't like selling them and shipping them and dealing with them unless they're super high end. If they're super high end, like Dark Tower or like any of the Dungeons and Dragons games or anything like that that's really high demand, then I'll deal with it. Then it's worth your time. But that's just my opinion on board games. Next up, we have this Rockford Peaches signed League of Their Own. So the movie A League of Their Own, it's based off of some real life events, as far as like, during the World War II when the men were off fighting, the women actually started their own peach. I think it was called the Peach League or something like that. And they had, and basically this is from the Hall of Fame. They were inducted in the Hall of Fame in 1988. But anyways, a long story short, this ball was signed by some of the original Rockford Peaches, which were based off of the League of Their Own. There's no crying in baseball. That's like one of the most famous lines in that movie. Tom Hanks was the drunk manager, and I think Rosie O'Donnell and Madonna and some other actresses were in it. And so, but anyways, the unfortunate thing about this too is like a lot of the signatures are faded over the years. And what happens is if you leave these balls in UV light, they'll actually degrade, as far as like the signatures will just fade away. Because usually, they're signed in blue, and it's something to do with the UV rays. And if you ever have any collectibles at all in your house, you should never have them somewhere where there's going to be sun hitting them in any direction. You should keep collectibles out of sunlight. Preferably you want to store them in a dark place, though. And if you do, it's suggested to have UV treated windows, which not everyone has. A lot of old buildings and houses don't have that. But if you have UV treated window panes, that's a whole different thing. But anyways, we did take a best offer for $150 on this. We had this listed for a few months, just no biters, but it was actually a really cool piece. I just wish that whoever owned this previously took a little bit better care of it, as far as like not having it. I'm pretty sure it was displayed in a cabinet or something for years, and then basically just the elements just got at it. But anyways, really cool piece. Another pro tip too is if you ever go to a garage sale and you see baseballs, definitely pick them up and look them to see if they're signed. This is a really good example of the fading I'm talking about. You can see there's a signature right there, but you just can't read it. Sometimes you'll be able to find signed balls in garage sales, especially like if there's a bucket of balls. I've found signed gloves before like that, signed bats, and just some people just think they're just regular balls or the regular gloves that, but some of them have some signatures on them, and they're definitely worth looking at. So just take another look if you ever go to a garage sale, if you ever see just random baseballs laying around. Next up, we have these Tory Burch leather sandals, sold for $150. Look out for this. Look out for this logo right here. This is Tory Tory Burch is definitely a Bolo brand. Some of the shoes don't go for like a crazy amount of money, but for the most part, It's definitely a Bolo brand. Now there are some fakes out there, so I'm just gonna like disclose that right now. So if you want to tell if your item's a fake or not, just look at the quality. You see the stitching, how well done this is, and how well done um, the hardware is on these logos, and even the sides. If you look at the sides, see here, you can see just the leather. The leather looks good. Like to me, like this looks like a legitimate pair of shoes. You know, look at even the stamps are really nice and crisp. The heels are looking really good. So, you know, just look out for fakes and things. If you see something that looks like the quality is really not great and it's a higher end designer brand, it's probably a fake. But to me, everything looks pretty good, even though, you know, so see, made in China. Things aren't going to be made in China that much anymore. I mean, they will be, but that's a whole other story in itself. I think we're going to see a whole revolution in an uh, another industrial revolution coming up here, I think, especially with all the stuff going on in China right now. Well, there's a lot of factories that have closed down. And so, yeah. Anyways, this is a really cool pair of shoes sold for $150. Definitely look out for that. Once again, I'm Chris, Thrift Shop Hustler. Hope you appreciated this video. Definitely go down there, click the like button. Leave a comment below. Let me know everyone's doing okay. I haven't done videos in a while. I got some other stuff going on. Life's been a little crazy over here, and hopefully we can do some more videos daily and get back on track here. So I appreciate you for tuning in, and if like you're new to the channel, definitely go down there, click the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Take care.